Welcome back to the 12 Steam Podcast. 12, of course, back with another One Piece review. We're going over chapter 1124, Close Friend. Now, this chapter right here, of course, brings some enlightenment to us as, of course, readers, but also One Piece fans, because now we see that we're finna head towards our next arc. Egghead is finally done. It's on to the next island, Elbaf. We start off, of course, by looking at the cover art. Cover art is the same old same. We see Yamato still going through her adventure. Her adventure's not over with yet. She has to go through the entire area of Wano country before she wants to leave to do the same exact way that Oda did and live her life similar to what he does. So, of course, she's on the cover art of this chapter, and she's preventing an abduction up on a road in Kiri Town. So she's stopping people from kidnapping a young woman, and hopefully this young woman becomes one of her retainers, probably, but we never know what will happen with Yamato's and her story, because one day she may join the crew of the future king of the pirates, but he already has his 10 members, so we'll see what happens with that. Moving right along, we are kicking off, of course, the chapter with Big News Morgan, and of course on the ship we know that on the sky float we know that we see Vivi and Wappo that landed there because they escaped from Marijois, and Big News Morgan ended up picking them up to keep kind of hush hush on them. Now Big News Morgan is planning and plotting to put out something new inside the world, something that is just captivating to picture or paint a picture of course, the utter disaster of the future. Now, when Big News Morgan starts talking about his plan, we see Vivi in a cut just looking on, and then she goes and simply looks at him and says, wouldn't it be better to just tell the truth instead of putting out lies? And Big News Morgan, of course, gets pissed off, and he starts barking back at Vivi, telling her to shut her little mouth, and because she is hiding out on his aircraft. And of course, if she doesn't be quiet, he'll tell the Navy where she's at. Now, of course, Vivi isn't backing down for Big News Morgan, even though Wappo wants her to, because Wappo, we all know, is a scary cat and does not want to get caught by the Navy. News Morgan looks on and just simply challenges Vivi. But as Vivi stands her ground, Big News Morgan looks at her and says, you know what? You're right. It's better for me to put out the truth than put out lies. So here's what I'm going to put out. Emperor Blackbeard versus Trafalgar Law as one. Emperor Red Hair Shanks versus Eustace Captain Kidd. There's two. And of course, Emperor Straw Hat Luffy murders Vegapunk. But we all know Vivi is not standing for that, because we know Vivi, deep down inside, she knows that Straw Hat Luffy would never do that, and she calls him a liar immediately. And once she calls him a liar, we cut right back, of course, to the destruction of Egghead Island. Everything that's going on. The Buster Call, the Five Gurus say, the Pacifistas, the Seraphins, of course, Barcelino, aka Kizaru, having to do what he had to do to one of his really close friends, his actually best friend, Vegapunk. And of course, Sentomaru on a boat, just going off on his own. Now, as we look on and we're cut back to the scene, see Aokiji is calling in to make sure that everybody's okay, and he's asking did anybody die. But then he gets a conversation with, of course, Kizaru. As he picks up the phone, Kizaru is simply telling him to shut up. Akainu is sitting there like, finally you picked up. What's happening with everybody? What's going on? What happened at Elbaf, at Egghead, and did you get your job complete, or was it a sloppy mess? And of course, Barcelino is crying because everybody is asleep and foaming from the mouth. Of course, they were all knocked out by hockey, but with everybody being asleep, Barcelino has to put his report in, and of course, his report is going to show events of what happened on Egghead Island. Once the people wake up, he'll get that answer. And then he simply asks a question to Sakazuki. The question was, have you ever killed a close friend? Look at the flashback, and the flashback just shows, of course, the life that Kizaru had with Vegapunk. Vegapunk showing blueprints from how the world's going to look, building a future 500 years ahead of his time, all the way till he became a Marine admiral. And of course, him being around Bonnie as a child, that led up all the way to the last ending points when he had to stab Vegapunk through the back as he was running away, because it was his job. How Sakazuki is sitting there asking him, was it a sloppy job done? Of course, Marcelino answers back, crying and yelling, if you have time to sit there and doubt me, then come over here and see my work for yourself, you ungrateful brat. With this being said, I believe Sakazuki was just in silence. And his silence said it all, because he knows the pain that is inside the heart of Kizaru. We cut away to our newly found escapees who finally escaped. Of course, we see the Elbaf giant ships in the Thousand Sunny sailing away. We have Zoro, Jinbei, and Frankie all up on a Thousand Sunny. Of course, Zoro is looking on and saying, how pathetic. Luffy is one of the 4 emperors now, and he's moping over one geezer dying, not knowing everything that happened, that transpired, with the reason why Vegapunk was so attached to Luffy, and Luffy to Vegapunk, because he wanted to help. Vegapunk asked him a question. He asked him, could you get me off this island safely and take me with you? And at that moment, when Zoro does that, we cut right inside and we see the eyes opening of none other than Lilith. And when Lilith arrives, of course, we have Usopp, Chopper, Nami, and Sanji all around her. And she, of course, takes a pause and touches her headphones and says to herself, I heard it all. As she says she heard it all, she starts crying. And nobody knows what she means by I heard it all. Of course, they're not understanding that the code or the earpiece on Lilith's ear is connected to the memories of all of the Vegapunk. She just relived every Vegapunk's death. Of course, the betrayal of York, the message that Vegapunk left out, and the fact that Atlas gave her life to save Lilith. And when she does it, Usopp is looking on to her and says, exactly what part of you is evil again? This at the former Usopp knows he has no clue what the fuck is going on. But we all do. As we look on as readers, we see that clearly all of these emotions are coming on right now strong, because she cares. That was her family, her Nakama, that was her people, her Stellas. Then she snaps out of it quickly, and they look and remark like, wow, you recovered kind of fast. And she is hungry. And Brook just simply points up there and says, it's a bunch of food up there, a lot of fruit plates and stuff like that was left out. And when Lilith climbs up there with Chopper, she sees Luffy. And Luffy is sitting there crying. As Luffy is crying, we all know that he's depressed, because he thinks to himself that he did not get the job done. He let old man Vegapunk down. But when Lilith stops him from that and says, death is only a concept by you. The truth is, she tells him the truth. Something that we all know. All Vegapunks have a connection. Once they all die, of course, they're getting uploaded back into her, because she is now the sole Vegapunk that's remaining alive outside of York, because York is still alive too. But the sole Vegapunk, for the most part, is now connected, and she has her amplifier on as she is now moving out with Straw Hats and the Elbaf Giants. But to her, as she tells them, Vegapunk is alive. And she thanks Luffy for saving her life, because she is also Vegapunk. And as she just explains everything and breaks it all down, Luffy hops up inside joy. The Giants are now happy, and they look like it's time to officially have yet another party. People look over it. They tell of course, Zoro, who's on the ship with Frankie, and of course, Jinbei, that Luffy is feeling a lot better now. So Luffy is feeling better. It's time to eat all that we can eat. And we look over as we see the Straw Hats happy. We see the Elbaf Giants happy. Robin is hugging Chopper because she gets to see Saul soon. Of course, we all know Usopp's dream is to become a mighty warrior and go visit Elbaf. Everybody is now in joy And of course, Luffy has to tell them straight up. He does not care at all if the Giants become his enemy, because at the end, we all know who's going to be the true king of the pirates. And that's going to be me, Straw Hat Luffy, as he jumps up and toasts as he has food in his mouth to his crew and, of course, the Elbaf Giants as they set sail to their next route, the land of Elbaf. But it does not end there just yet. We see one last panel of a silhouette of a figure of a person possibly drinking. That might be Shanks waiting for Luffy to arrive at Elbaf. Because we all know that Shanks was just in Elbaf when he took care of Kid, because Kid's route took him to Elbaf. But of course, Kid had to get packed up real fast. And we simply see this silhouette that just says, "Come on, ... and then to be continued." Of course, as a reader, I look at this like, if this is Shanks, it's finally time, one, come together. He's not returning to Straw Hat no time soon because he's living up to that name. Or two, we're going to see Shanks leave a lot sooner than we thought. Because we know that Shanks was already setting sail to go find the One Piece. He told Ben Beckman that it's about time we go find it a little while ago. And now I think it's officially time, if he is not sticking around Elbaf, to set sail and go find a One Piece. It would be pretty cool, though, to see if he sticks around. And of course, we get the interaction between the red-haired pirates and the straw hat pirates, the friendly interaction between them, and of course, the Giants of Elbaf, as they have one massive feast for the reuniting of course, Robin and Saul, Usopp to where he wants to be in the end goal, and of course, they're setting sail finally to become and see who will become the future king of the pirates, as Luffy looks on to this idol, the person he looked up to the most, the person who gave him his straw hat, red hair Shanks. I'm not sure if that's Shanks though, but it does look like it by the cape, by of course the collar of his sleeves. That's about all that we pretty much see from him. We don't know. He has his legs folded. It's going to be interesting where we head though. But we do know that our next destination, of course, is Elbaf. And with this chapter being the final chapter and closing out the arc for Egghead, Egghead Island goes down. One of the arcs that definitely sets the tone for the final saga of One Piece as we wrap it all up. Stay tuned, of course, for our next chapter coming out, chapter 1125. When that drops, you can catch it right here on the 12 Steam Podcast. Make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and of course, comment down below. We love interacting with you guys. So please, 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 let us start interacting more. We're moving closer to things. We're finished with our cons. Check out the upcoming video after this one. It's going to be our Jeopardy night that we had on Saturday. We had it, Saturday, August 31st. It was lots of fun. It's going to be lots of fun that we have. But of course, this is 12 officially signing off.